Hi, it's only me again. I thought I would do an update 2 weeks on with my garden, because there's actually been quite a few changes in the last couple of weeks, which are quite exciting for someone sad like me who enjoys the garden. So I thought I'd share them with you, especially if you are in an apartment or a flat during lockdown. Now it's about 6:30 on Friday here, so we've got the light coming from a different angle. We also have my guides, which are the 3 cats. They will probably be joining me as we take a walk through the garden. They've just had their supper, so they're full of and excited and active at the moment, so they'll probably be running around as well. Okay, so what has changed? Well, we've noticed that there are birds going into the bush here. We suspect that there is probably a nest up there, as well as the one up here that the cats like to launch themselves from the bike shed. There's Stanley. The rhubarb is doing quite well, not quite ready to pick yet, not as strong as we thought. We've had quite a bit of rain in the last 48 hours, so everything's quite lush and coming on. We haven't got the jasmine scenting yet on our arch here, but we do have the lilac. The lilac has come out. Oh, and it's beautiful. It's funny actually, came through the arch a few times and thought that it was the jasmine, but it wasn't. It was the lilac that was so strong. So this has really come out quite beautifully over the last couple of weeks. Moving on through, our alliums are coming on quite nicely. You'll see there's a few that have actually burst a bit further up the garden, so that's coming on nicely, as are the raspberries. Now, if you've done the Getting Started course, you'll know that I have thank you Gatsby, a harvest of hope. So sowing a seed so that we can see that things are changing. Nature is continuing throughout this challenging time in history. And I have actually planted some of my plants into the ground. So over here, for example, we have my bean plants. Now you might be thinking, Claire, what the heck have you done? Well, this is my snail defense system. These are actually bundt baking tins. I bought these about 20 years ago when I first got a garden. I invested in about 20 of them. Now they're not cheap, they're metal, but they are fantastic as a snail defense. So they create a little moat around the seedling. So when I plant the seedling, I also put the moat in, and then I put some salt. Now snails don't like salt, and as humane a death as you can give a snail, it works really well. And as you can see, it's been raining, so the moat is filled up, but because the moat is slightly tilted, it'll run off to the side, and then obviously if we have a lot of hot weather, then the water will just evaporate, but the salt will remain. So I find it a great way of protecting my seedlings from the snails, because I don't want to put down slug pellets. We have cats. I don't think they're great anyway. I want this to be a natural garden, so I find that my moats work very well. It's applying a baking solution in the garden. Moving on round, more alliums round the tree, which is now quite nicely started to blossom. There's some blossom starting to come on the apple tree, which is good. Moving on round, some more bundt tins with the sunflowers. So one of these represents me, one that represents my husband. We've got another one over here that represents my late father-in-law, in amongst the daffodils that are still coming out, which is really nice. Here we've got some alliums that are starting to burst, probably because they get more sunlight than the ones elsewhere in the garden. So they're starting to really colour up, which is lovely to see. What else have we got? Well, you've got another sunflower here. So another sunflower with a bundt tin. That one represents Sissy, one of our cats that passed away. Lavender, this is a lavender. Oh, so you can still get the smell. That will actually grow to about this height with the fronds, and the bees will really, really love that. Over here, this bush, in a couple of weeks' time, this will have white flowers on it. This looks beautiful when this is bushing. This isn't that old either, so hopefully that will fill out more here. This, my wisteria. I've always wanted a wisteria. They're very country cottage and just seem so suitable for Victorian house like ours. These can take years to actually flower. And I think this is the second year that this has actually had some flower on it. So obviously I want to train it eventually across the arch. But that's lovely to see. Again, a little bit of colour. We can see the pears starting to come on the pear tree here. So clearly the bees have been busy over the last couple of weeks, so those will start to hang. I may need to thin them out if they get a little bit too heavy. So that's exciting to see. Coming on through, we've got our sail shade for the pond, which came up. Despite the weather now, it has been extremely sunny over the last couple of weeks, so this creates some shade because the sun comes around the pond, and I don't want the fish to cook. Bluebells coming out nicely. This is starting to flower as well. Don't ask me what it is, I haven't got a clue, but this is a lovely bush. This was really small when I first bought it. That's grown very well because it gets a lot of sunlight and it obviously likes it. Our acer tree doing nicely as well for a little bit of colour in the garden. More alliums, yes, I do rather like the alliums. The grapevine, sorry, is starting to bush, which is a good sign. More alliums. These will look lovely here. Again, I find that they're a very subtle colour in amongst the greenery. I'm not sure what this is. I'd know if you told me the word, the name of it. But again, this has bushed out massively in the last couple of weeks. And my father-in-law is starting to blossom. So this tree, which represents my father-in-law, this really does come out with a lovely pink blossom. This will probably come to its peak in the next week or so. So there are really some lovely colours starting to come in the garden, and it is literally just within the last couple of weeks. Got my lavender here. These are new lavender. These have only been in for about a year, so they look a bit scraggly, but I have no doubt that they will bush out this year and then next year start to look like a proper lavender plant. The magnolia, kind of going over now, but these beautiful waxy leaves are starting to come on it. More alliums, and then a mini rhododendron, which is flowering. I actually moved this was somewhere else in the garden last year, but in the spring I moved it into a pot and it seems to be quite happy being there. So there's lots of change going on, and like I say, even though it may feel like Groundhog Day during lockdown, there are things in nature that are telling us that things are happening, that change is going on. And if we just see birds, even the birds are agreeing with me. If we just tune in to what is going on around us, we can find the positives. We can find, yes, things are changing, even if you don't feel like much is happening in our lives. So that's just an update on what's been changing here. We'll see what's happening in a couple of weeks, and if there's yet more change in a couple of weeks' time, then I'll do another garden tour update. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you very soon. Take care. Bye.